Sarasota Memorial Hospital, the only hospital in Florida to consistently earn a 5-star rating from the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services since 2016. You can learn more at smh.com. Shorecrest Preparatory School is a nationally recognized pre-K through 12th grade school in the Tampa Bay region with signature programs in medical sciences, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. Visit shorecrest.org.
Plans to roll back protections of endangered animals are raising concerns among wildlife advocates. I'm Kathy Carter, and today on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking about how this could affect efforts to save state animals, such as the Florida panther and the manatee. Also coming up, do you remember that big net that hung over a field at the St. Pete Pier? Well, it was a very cool art installation. It got knocked down during Hurricane Helene. We'll speak to the artist about that piece and her new exhibition. Do you miss seeing what was called Bending Art? Would you like to see public art come back? Tell us and call 813-755-6562 or message us at FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. And later, hear from a group of breast cancer survivors whose experiences brought them together as athletes. And as a team, they are paddling their way to healing. All this plus your calls and more. But first, these headlines.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The United Kingdom says it provided support to a U.S. military operation to seize an oil tanker in the North Atlantic, one of two such operations today, targeting Venezuela-linked ships. The other was in the Caribbean. NPR's Lauren Frayer has the latest from London.
The UK Ministry of Defence says it let the US military launch this attack from British military bases and provided surveillance support. UK Defence Secretary John Healey says the ship had a, quote, nefarious history, part of a Russian-Iranian axis of sanctions evasion. The US says it had been monitoring the ship for weeks after its crew rebuffed attempts to board it in the Caribbean. It then changed course toward Europe and changed its flag to a Russian one. Russia's transportation ministry reacted by saying no government has the right to use force against another's ships. The U.S. seized the ship between Iceland and Scotland, citing what it says are violations of U.S. sanctions on Venezuelan oil. Lauren Frayer, NPR News, London.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio has just attended a closed-door briefing with members of Congress. He later addressed reporters about the Venezuela operation over the weekend and U.S. interests in that country's oil.
It's not just saying or speculating it's going to happen. It's already happening. Like the oil arrangement that we've made with PDVSA on their sanctioned oil that they can't move. Understand, they are not generating any revenue from their oil right now. They can't move it unless we allow it to move because we have sanctions, because we're enforcing those sanctions. This is tremendous leverage.
European leaders have raised concerns about President Trump's threat that he wants to now gain control of Greenland and its resources. Rubio says, quote, if the president identifies a threat to the national security of the United States, every president retains the option to address it through military means, end quote. The administration says it's freezing billions of dollars in low-income aid for 5 Democratic-led states. NPR's Jennifer Ludden has more.
The funding freeze is for California, Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois, and New York. The biggest chunk is $7 billion for cash assistance, plus money to help families with childcare and other social services. A Health and Human Services official confirmed the move to NPR, but did not say why only these states. The New York Post first reported the freeze, citing claims the money was going to migrants who are in the U.S. illegally, but with no specific evidence. This all follows a wider freeze on childcare funding after a right-wing media influencer put a spotlight on alleged welfare fraud in Minnesota. On X, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand accused the administration of political retribution. Jennifer Ludden, NPR News, Washington.
At last check on Wall Street, the Dow was down 71 points at 49,390. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with its Name Your Price tool, a way to see coverage options based on a driver's budget. Learn more at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. Governor Ron DeSantis says he is against allowing members of Congress to trade individual stocks. WUSF's Douglas Soul reports he has a plan to address it at the state level.
Governor Ron DeSantis says the federal government doesn't do enough to rein in congressional insider trading. States are limited in regulating Congress, but DeSantis says he wants Florida to require candidates to check a box on whether they plan to trade individual stocks.
You'll have people get elected to Congress having never shown any investment acumen ever in their life, and then all of a sudden they become Warren Buffett on steroids.
Those disclosures would continue.
Well, when they run for re-election, they have to answer a second question. Did you, in fact, trade any stocks individually while you were in Congress?
DeSantis also endorsed a federal bill banning congressional members and their immediate families from trading. Douglas Soul, WUSF, 89.7 News.
Total visits to the state of Florida were up 0.1% through the third quarter of 2025. Visit Florida says there were 100,000 more visitors between January and September compared to a year earlier. WLRN's Tom Hudson says enough travelers from other U.S. states and overseas were able to make up for the continued sharp decline in Canadian visitors.
The most important foreign travelers to Florida are from Canada, responsible for upwards of 3 million visitors a year. But Canadian tourism was down almost 15% through the first 9 months of last year. If a similar trend held for the fourth quarter, that would mean about 500,000 fewer Canadians came to Florida in 2025 compared to a year earlier.
Canadian tourism took a dive thanks to trade tensions and political rhetoric from President Donald Trump. A heads up for those who plan to drive west on I-4 into Tampa overnight tonight. All westbound lanes will be closed through the downtown Tampa interchange at I-275 starting at 10 p.m. The interchange will reopen at 5 a.m. Thursday. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
Have you ever been so wrapped up in an interview on WUSF that you were late for a meeting because you couldn't stop listening? Stay connected to the ideas that grip you. Download the WUSF app, your spot for local, wherever you are.
Discover your next favorite jazz artist at WUSFjazz.org. Find local band videos, local events, and theme playlists to fit your mood. Presented by Side Door at the Palladium, Tampa Bay's home of jazz for 20 years.
This is Florida Matters Live and Local, sponsored by Badawi Law. I'm Matthew Petty. A lawsuit against the Alligator Alcatraz immigration facility has stirred up a decades-old environmental fight in the Everglades. WSF's Megan Bowman is reporting on the facility, and that led her straight to the heart of federal law, powerful federal law, called the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. The act, signed into law in 1970 by then-President Richard Nixon, came after a fight to protect the Everglades from the world's largest airport.
Clean air, clean water, open spaces, these should once again be the birthright of every American.
Well, that's Nixon, of course, at a State of the Union speech in 1970. Now, opponents of the detention center say Governor Ron DeSantis is breaking the law by continuing to operate Alligator Alcatraz, even as he claims to be restoring the delicate ecosystem of the Everglades. Well, joining us to talk more is WSF's Megan Bowman. Megan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, her special report is called Defending the Everglades Again. You can hear it today on WSF 89.7 and on WSF.org. And visit WSF.org to see a detailed digital project as well. You can join the conversation as well. Do you think protecting the Everglades is more important than maintaining Alligator Alcatraz? What is the most important thing here? Join the conversation by calling 813-755-6562. You can also email us at FloridaMatters@WSF.org. Well, Megan, in your story, you spoke with Elise Bennett, one of the lead attorneys in the lawsuit against Alligator Alcatraz. Let's just take a listen to what she had to say about the facility.
So we have significant concerns about ongoing construction-related damage, but there's also ongoing harm that continues just via the operation of the site.
All right, so I want to talk about that in a moment, but just before we do, now you've been pretty much as close as anyone who's not either a detainee or an official in some capacity can get to Alligator Alcatraz. What's it like?
Yeah, I've been right up to the gates, couldn't get past those, but I did get to travel to the facility in August. And it's interesting because it's, you're in the middle of this beautiful national preserve, right? But there is a lot of traffic on Tamiami Trail, which is US 41, right where it sits. And across the street from the front gates, there's people who, have camped out for weeks, months, just keeping an eye. So you have people out there on the outside watching what's going on, or at least doing the best they can to. And then you also have groups and organizations setting up, prayer masses and vigils and protests and stuff like that.
So quite a lot of activity, a lot of mosquitoes too, I understand.
Oh boy. Yeah, it was hot. And I would say through my few trips to the Everglades, even with a net over my face, hundreds of mosquito bites, but worth it.
Yeah. So what is the damage that Bennett claims, at least Bennett, the attorney we just heard from, what is the damage he claims? What is the impact the detention facility has on the water and wildlife of the Everglades?
Right. So that increased activity, Elise Bennett has concerns that all of that activity and construction is going to lead to polluted runoff. So you're going to have nutrients, matter get into all of that really important ecosystem. And it's important to remember, too, that the Everglades is a very important watershed and provides a lot of drinking water for a lot of people in South Florida. So kind of throwing some of those, different dirt and different, phosphorus and stuff like that into the water there could cause a lot of problems. She's also concerned about the light pollution there. That whole ground is panther habitat. So as those lights are up at night, they're losing part of their habitat to live.
The Everglades is vast, though, right? And this is
huge.
Just a little tiny corner of it. So why, aside from the kind of the details of what you've laid out there, why are they so concerned about the impact of this one facility on the Everglades writ large?
Well, this one facility is about 25,000 acres. So yes, of course, in the big scheme of things, it's small. But if you have, they're saying that with all of this construction, with all of this movement and operations happening, it's going to create waste. Right now, water, jet fuel, waste, it's all trucked in and out. But there is kind of overlap, and that is a really big concern for them.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with WUSF's Megan Bowman about the fight over the alligator Alcatraz, the so-called alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Everglades, and the environmental impact of that facility. Walk us through, Megan, why advocates believe the existence of this facility breaks the law.
So the facility sits on an airport. It's called Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport. And it's about 55 miles west of downtown Miami. And it's, in the middle of the Everglades, and the
let's just give our listeners a little bit of context too, because this fight, I guess, to preserve the Everglades has been going on for a long time. It goes back to the 1960s, in fact, and that's when state officials decided to start building this giant airport, as you say, and it was going to be the largest in the world, right? So a pretty big deal for
5 times the size of JFK. So right, so talks began in 1965. Dade County wanted to build this giant airport for supersonic jets away from Miami to kind of offer some relief to the airport because of this population boom of the time. Now, supersonic jets, right? This is
back in the era of the Concorde, I suppose.
Exactly. And those were later outlawed to, fly over land, because when they do and they pass that speed barrier, they create a loud sonic boom. Those loud sonic booms can break windows in your house or create property damage. So they didn't want those supersonic jets over Miami.
Right.
So they were like, oh, look at this land. It's out there. Nobody's there. It's just nobody's doing anything with it. This is the perfect spot. So that was kind of how the land got chosen in the first place.
Right. Now, the Everglades, so we have to go back a couple of decades. Awareness of the Everglades as a place worth saving began in 1947. That's when journalist and environmental activist Marjorie Stoneman Douglas wrote her landmark book, The Everglades, River of Glass. Now, she wanted to, grass, I should say. She wanted to protect the Everglades from this airport.
The representative here of the National Audubon Society came to me to tell me that he needed help to fight a proposed jet port out on the Tamiami Trail with its industrial development that would have polluted all the Everglades water.
All right, so the voice there, of course, of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, but you have the officials saying we want to build this jet port, we're going to site it away from housing and so forth to kind of give residents a bit of relief from the sound of these jets, but then you have environmental advocates saying, hang on a minute, let's just pump the brakes on this. Why were they kind of concerned about it?
Yeah, so Marjorie had published that book in 1947. The land was always very important to her. But as we come forward, through that 20 years, right, because she published 47, this all happens 2 decades later. During that time, people are finding more worth in this area, finding out how important some of these environmental issues are to the people, to, getting the water in this. So that whole environmental awakening was a real thing during the 60s and 70s. So as we come into this, advocates are saying that same thing that they're saying now, right? Mm-hmm. They're saying, hey, wait. This land is really important. And there were a lot of big names originally involved in this, like Florida governor at the time, Claude Kirk. Initially, he was in support of this project when he took over when he became governor in 1967.
Probably thinking about the economic kind of impact of a new airport.
Well, yeah. Because there was also plans in some of the documents that housing development could have also gone around this jet port. So, it wouldn't have just been that airport. There would have been other issues, right? Mm-hmm. So.
Right, and then finally there was a lot of pushback. The project was eventually stopped. What kind of triggered the stop, I guess, and work on that?
So the project was finally stopped after a pact was signed called the Everglades Pact. It was signed, it was agreed to about 2 weeks after former President Richard Nixon signed the National Environment Policy Act, or NEPA. Mm-hmm. And that pact basically said, okay, everything stops, construction for the jet port. However, you can still use it as a training facility, so long as you monitor the pollution there, make sure it's no threat to wildlife and things of that nature.
Right.
Because when they, the reason that Nixon even signed NEPA in the first place, a major factor was some of the environmental impact studies done by the government, right? So they were looking into it, seeing what kind of environmental impacts this construction would have. And it ended up with this report by Dr. Luna Leopold, actually the first environmental impact study of its kind ever in Florida, that basically said, look, if construction here continues, it would, quote, be the destruction of the South Florida ecosystem. Estimates of lesser damage are not believed to be realistic. So, very strongly worded opposition to construction there.
And environmental advocates are saying we need this kind of scrutiny before operating a site like this now.
Right. And that kind of brings us full circle in a way, right? So Elise Bennett, the law that they're actually suing right now is NEPA. Mm-hmm. And it's that same law that was created basically out of this whole jetport battle.
What's next for the Everglades? Is there a chance the facility actually gets shut down in the last kind of 30 seconds or so we have here?
It was always meant to be temporary. I can't really speak to whether they'll shut it down or keep it open. But what I can say is right now there is a temporary flight restriction over that area until July 2nd of this year.
Okay, well, we've been speaking with WSF's Megan Bowman. Her feature, Defending the Everglades Again, is today WSF 89.7 and WSF.org. And you can check out the extensive digital package on WSF.org, find stories, beautiful images, and a timeline of the modern story of the Everglades that started in 1947. Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you so much.
Well, coming up next, we're going to talk to a curator for the works of modern artist Robert Rauschenberg. Stay tuned. You're listening to Florida Matters, live and local.
Florida laws shape everything, from your taxes to your kids' education. Your Florida is a journalism project from WUSF, connecting you with the decisions that matter and the people making them. I'm editor Amy Tardif. Your Florida is across the state, on air, online, and on social media.
At WUSF, support comes from the people who listen, like you. Also, Seitenbacher, with a new web shop. Healthy muesli, cold-pressed oils, and vegetable broth mix delivered to your door from right here in Tampa Bay. Details at Seitenbacher.com. Seitenbacher. Seitenbacher.
Still holding on to a car you don't drive anymore? Give it new purpose this season. Donate your car, truck, or boat to WUSF and help keep trustworthy local journalism strong. It's easy, and it may mean a tax deduction. Call 866-WUSF-CAR or visit WUSF.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters, live and local broadcasting from the Doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio at WSF in Tampa. I'm Matthew Petty. Well, in the 1980s, famed contemporary artist Robert Rauschenberg was living on Florida's Captiva Island when he received fan mail from an art-loving teenager. His sculptures, silkscreens, prints, and paintings were displayed in the world's most sacred art galleries, and he inspired the likes of Andy Warhol. And that art-loving teen is now art curator Jade Dellinger. He's created the exhibition Rauschenberg at 100, As Large as the World Is. It opens next week at the Florida Southwestern State College in Fort Myers. Running January 15th to May 2nd, it'll feature art Rauschenberg made while at his home in Captiva, just west of Fort Myers. It's part of several events between New York City and Florida celebrating the late artist's centenary. Jade Dellinger joins us now to talk about the exhibition and Rauschenberg's ties to Florida, including Tampa Bay. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we want to hear from you too. Are you a fan of Robert Rauschenberg's art? Perhaps you just knew him as Bob or saw him at the Mucky Duck pub on Captiva Island. Tell us about it. 813-755-6562. You can also message us at FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. All right, so I want to ask you about this fan mail you sent to Rauschenberg as a teenager. And I have to say too, I mean, this is probably not a typical kind of teenage sort of fan letter. I mean, not many people are that into modern art that they're writing to the, local artists, but
That's
interesting
right.
kind of backstory there. So you got an original print from the artist in return. Tell us about that.
I did, yeah. Well, I had the story is I had a great-grandfather who was a famous baseball player. Mm-hmm. And so he went into the Hall of Fame with Jackie Robinson, and he lived well into his 90s. So I was, as a teen, one of the things that we would do was we would answer his fan mail. And so he had cataracts, he couldn't see very well, and he would sign autographs. He was always incredibly generous about all of that. And I would see these creative letters that would come, and those that you could immediately tell if it was someone who just was, an autograph dealer or wanting a dozen baseballs signed. And I, of course, having grown up around Baseball Hall of Famers and Mickey Mantle and Yogi Berra and Joe DiMaggio, I didn't have any real interest in baseball, played soccer all my life, but got interested in art. And my mother had clipped an article about Rauschenberg that was in a local magazine, and they'd followed him for a day on Captiva. And he would sleep late and, not really get to work until the evening, but work all night. And often was sort of known as a big drinker. He would go and sort of toast the sunset before going off to work. And that would mean sort of walking down the beach to this pub that you mentioned. And I thought, I'm going to, you can reach your heroes with a letter and
Sure.
possibly put it in their hand at the time. I'm going to write a letter to him, but I knew enough, having received all these letters from my great-grandfather, not to send it care of the Leo Castelli Gallery in New York, because surely, there would be gatekeepers or even if I'd gotten the studio address. So I sent to Mr. Robert Rauschenberg, care of the Mucky Duck Pub, and the letter was very sincere, and I'm sure that now it happened. Later, I would meet the owner of the Mucky Duck, a guy named Victor, who I'm sure as Bob came in was handed the mail and said, Bob, you're here way too often, obviously.
Yeah.
Here's your mail.
Right.
But in the letter, I also had a P.S. enclosed as $10. Let me buy you a drink.
Yeah.
And with that, I think, within a week or two, I received a big tube in the mail. And I had to sign for it at my parents', house. And in it was canceled Captiva, and in it was this lithographic poster. He'd just gotten back from China,
right,
and was the first Western contemporary artist to have a solo exhibition in China.
Wow.
Had designed this and signed it for Jade, and there was a handwritten note inside too, and it said, "I'll have that drink and wish you luck just before I go to work tonight.
Wow.
I've put a gift in your pocket. Best RR."
Wow,
So,
that's some response to get. You might not have been expecting that, but let me just cut forward a little bit to an interview with journalist Charlie Rose. Now, in it, Rauschenberg talked about his sobriety, how embarrassed he is at the notion that pain and suffering make for better art than joy does. Does his art kind of reflect that journey?
I don't think really directly. I mean, I think Rauschenberg was engaged with, I would argue he's the most significant, impactful, and influential artist of the second half of the 20th century. He really is the progenitor of pop art. Movements like minimalism and conceptual art really spring from Bob Rauschenberg.
And how much of it was created on Captiva?
Oh, a tremendous amount. He bought his first property on Captiva in 1968 and basically worked there and made that his primary home. He had properties in New York, but that was his place until he died 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And even now, his foundation, has run a residency program, brought 500 artists to the property. He was the largest property owner on Captiva Island. And at the time that he left New York and found his way to Florida and really fell in love with Florida, he was looking for some isolation and kind of an escape from New York. He was already a very famous artist. He'd won the Venice Biennale. He'd won the Golden Lion at the Venice Biennale. He was the youngest artist, first American.
So he was a big deal.
A huge deal.
Yeah.
I mean, paintings from that era, 6-7 years ago at auction, one painting sold for $89 million.
Yeah. I want to ask about that print too. I mean, did that come from the University of South Florida's graphic studio in Tampa?
So it did not, but Graphic Studio was deeply involved with that tour. Bob had envisioned this idea of sort of one-to-one communication with people around the world as sort of a peace mission, but also he named this world tour through the 80s Rocky, Rauschenberg Overseas Culture Interchange. He announced it on the General Assembly floor of the United Nations, actually, before beginning to make this tour.
Was this like an official role, or was he sort of going out on his own and saying, I'm going to kind of make the world come closer together through art?
It was very much on his own. It could have been much more official, but essentially he wanted to go to places where Americans couldn't really travel to, and to places where there were dictators and authoritarian regimes, and where he didn't really engage the State Department in that way. The University of South Florida was in fact the headquarters for Rocky, and because of Donald Saff, who started Graphic Studio, they were the ones that coordinated all of this. Bob Rauschenberg sold his personal art collection. He sold his Andy Warhol. He sold it could have been the Pepsi-Cola Rocky tour or something, but instead he wanted to finance it. He wanted to organize it. And that all actually really did happen through the University of South Florida. So, and that meant he went to Chile under Pinochet, made a major exhibition there. He went to the Soviet Union. He was the first Western contemporary artist to have a museum show in the Soviet Union. China, Venezuela.
So he broke a lot of ground with his art. And presumably the folks who come to this exhibition are going to see a lot of that Florida influence in this
for sure
exhibition.
And part of my role at the Bob Rauschenberg Gallery down in Fort Myers, which has a long history with Bob, has been, I think, to sort of see his broader influence and to sort of reconnect and to tell that story. So yes, that's our plan with this exhibition.
Well, thanks so much for taking some time to tell us about the exhibition. We've been speaking about the Bob Rauschenberg Gallery at South Florida State College in Fort Myers. The exhibition Rauschenberg at 100 Large as the World Is runs from January 15th through May 2nd. And thank you so much, Jade. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're listening to Florida Matters, live and local. Coming up, the state bird, should it be changed? Want to hear what you think? Give us a call and stay with us.
On the next Fresh Air, a new age of hate in America. Investigative reporter Eric Listblau says we're seeing a national surge in violent bigotry and white supremacy, encouraged by incendiary rhetoric from Donald Trump. Listblau's new book examines the trend through events in Orange County, California, including a murder committed by a young neo-Nazi. Join us.
Great conversation on Fresh Air tonight at 7 on WUSF.
Listener support powers WUSF. Funding also comes from Badawi Law, offering legal services in personal injury, immigration, and auto accidents, with offices in Tampa, Florida. Office information and practice details at badawilaw.com or learn more on Instagram at Badawi Law.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. The great debate of the century, or at least the last 25 years, which bird should get the honor of being the official state bird of Florida? There's the beloved flamingo, who, if we're being honest, isn't even native to Florida. However, it has a huge visual presence here, from front yard plastic versions to beach towels and tourist gift shops. And if Tampa International Airport's famous flamingo Phoebe could speak, she would sound like this. There's also the Florida scrub jay, the one bird whose home is only in Florida. Quite a distinctive sound to the scrub jay there. And finally, the reigning official Florida bird for 25 years, the northern mockingbird. That is a bird that 5 states claim as their own. Well, Florida Representative Jim Mooney of Isla has introduced a personal proposal to make the flamingo the state bird and make the Florida scrub jay the official songbird of the state, sort of a consolation prize, if you will. Which one would you vote for? Are you a die-hard flamingo fan, or are you betting on the bluebird, Florida scrub jay? Do you think the mockingbird should keep the state title? Let us know. 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also send us a message at FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Our guest today is Ann Paul. She's the president of the Tampa Audubon Society. Ann, thanks so much for being with us.
That's my pleasure.
Okay, so does Audubon have a bird in this fight, so to speak, or does the society have a preference for what bird should be the official state bird of Florida?
I don't know that Audubon Florida has a position on this. I think it's very thoughtful that we should be thinking, or it's a good idea that we should be thinking about protecting our birds, and particularly acknowledging that we have special birds here in the state. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, after some of the recent hurricanes, we are getting some flamingos.
They're just blowing in on the wind?
They've come in on the wind, and they've been seen across the state. And recently, Mark Cook, who works for the South Florida Water Management District, found over 100 of them in Florida Bay, still hanging around, so they didn't go home.
Right.
So we may end up with nesting flamingos way out in Florida Bay. People don't see them much because they're in the really, really shallow, clay, muddy areas there.
Yeah.
But
so they're kind of like the tourists. They come to Florida, like what they see, decide to stick around.
Decided to stay.
Yeah.
They may not know how to get home, so they may be kind of stuck here. But with over 100 birds there, that's possible.
Yeah. That could be the start of some kind of like pod of flamingos, or whatever you call them.
We could end up with a flamingo flock.
Yeah.
John James Audubon saw them when he came to Florida in 1835. But he saw them in a great distance. They were very elusive and nervous about letting him get close enough. He was shooting birds in order to draw them.
Good reason, yeah. Right.
So he saw them at a far distance. Mm-hmm. But his picture of the flamingo is very famous because he drew the bird's life size, and he had to squeeze the neck way down and so on. So when you look at his picture of the flamingo, which is pretty famous of his birds, it's there.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so they were a native bird of Florida. Mm-hmm. They haven't been for a while, and they may be again.
Yeah.
So the Wildlife Commission is protecting them at this point now. So you're not allowed to go out and shoot one willy-nilly.
Right. Good for the flamingos. Good if you're a flamingo. We're talking about, I should say, the debate over the state bird. Should it be the mockingbird? Should the mockingbird stay state bird? Should it be the flamingo? A lot of people are saying that the flamingo should be the state bird, or the Florida scrubjay, which is unique to the state of Florida. Talking with Ann Paul, president of the Tampa Audubon Society. I'd like to hear your input as well. The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. Tell us about your pick for state bird. You can send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. I mean, so it seems to me, Anne, that if you have this debate over a state bird, it's going to give some more attention to particular birds. Probably a good thing, right? Because more people are paying attention to it. Is there any other significance to having a state bird? Like, does the state receive anything extra because of the recognition of the bird in the title?
I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that our birds are part of our natural history, and certainly protecting a bird species like the Florida scrubjay is really important. This is a bird, as you said, that in the entire world only occurs here in the state of Florida. And where it occurs, those habitats need to be protected in order to allow it to live. It's a very interesting and particularly beautiful bird, I think. And personally, that's my choice.
Uh-huh.
But if you've gone on field trips that have gone to see Florida scrubjays, they're very attentive to anybody walking into their territory.
Mm-hmm.
And that's whether you're a person or another scrubjay. Very territorial birds. They stick home. They have great family values. They mate for life. And then the offspring of one nesting season sticks around to help raise its younger siblings.
Huh.
Really an interesting, what's called cooperative breeding behavior. Very interesting in the world. It's not the only place it occurs, but it's one of the first places where it was recognized here in Florida. So they're a particularly beautiful bird, and they have my vote.
Yeah. Is that something people pay attention to when they're thinking about what would make a good state bird, like family values? I mean, we're sort of anthropomorphizing these animals a little bit, right?
We are. I don't know. I think it's more important to think about the fact that this is a bird of our actual natural history. This bird was given to us in a way before people came to Florida. And as part of our resources, it's something that there needs to be room in Florida for these birds to continue to exist.
Right, and that's increasing pressure on them with development and other kind of use of the land that they would need to survive.
Very much so. They nest on what is essentially the old beach dunes of Florida. So in other words, the highest and driest lands in the state. And those are, preferred by people who are running away from hurricanes,
Sure.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
So you want to go look at the highlands, and that's really where they are nesting. So
I want to hear what you think about the state bird. Should it remain the northern mockingbird? Keep in mind there's a bunch of other states that also have this as their state bird. Should the Florida scrubjay be the state bird, or maybe the flamingo? A few more of those coming to Florida and sticking around by all accounts. Give us a call, 813-755-6562. Tell us what you think about your choice for state bird. That's 813-755-6562. You can also send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. So what about the mockingbird? I mean, it's very common. You can find it in most of the lower 48 states, even as far as Canada and Mexico. I mean, are we really unique if we share this state bird with other states?
Well, personally, I just love mockingbirds as an individual.
For the sound, the song?
The songs are so interesting. What is really unique or among birds is that the female mockingbirds choose the males who sing the most songs. And that's a male who has existed in that particular habitat. It understands where the food is, how to avoid danger. And so by the females choosing that particular male, she is increasing the chance that he will live through the nesting season and be able to help her raise healthy young to be part of the future of mockingbirds in that particular neighborhood.
So there's some practicality to those songs. They're not just kind of showing off.
Well, they're definitely showing off. They're what they are is they're territorial songs. So when in March and end of February and so forth, when we're getting close to the equinox, what happens is the birds are recognizing the fact that the day length is either equal or increasing. And so that brings them into the height of their reproductive activities. So all of a sudden, they want to absolutely defend a territory big enough that they can use those resources in the territory to raise their young. And they know exactly how much land they need.
Wow. So we're hearing a nice song, and that's all kind of Game of Thrones in the bird world out there in reality.
And they're not kidding. If a bird comes in, another mockingbird comes into the territory, they will fight at the edge of their territory. And you can see them do that in your neighborhood if you're paying attention.
Yeah. Let me get a couple of calls in here. We've got Scott from Orlando. Scott, you're on the air.
Hey. Well, thank you very much. It's so wonderful to hear you talking about birds. I am on the cusp of retiring. I got an awesome pair of binoculars. I want to know where to find the scrub jays and where to look, number one. Number two, I got a couple picks for state bird, and they don't include what's on the slate right now. I like the sandhill crane. I think that's the most awesome bird I've ever seen in my life, especially when I'm driving my car and they won't get out of the way. Unbelievably bold birds that do not get threatened by a 2,000-pound vehicle. They're amazing. The other bird that I really like in Florida is the southeast Floridiate. These are people who don't take birds or animals. They don't care for them at all, and they destroy the environment. That's an aside. I think they're Floridiates, and they should be a state bird, but a nefarious state bird who doesn't take care of state birds.
Right. Okay.
And I would like to know when the next bird count is, because I'm retiring, and I want to get involved in counting birds.
Sounds great. Hey, thanks for your call, Scott. Appreciate that. So let's go through those real quick. Where can you see the sandhill? Not the sandhill crane. Where can you see the scrub jay? Where's a good place to see him?
Okay, so one good thing is to look up on eBird. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology has a lot of information on the different birds of Florida and where they're actually occurring. And then the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission has the Great Florida Birding Trail. So if you go online and look up the Great Florida Birding Trail, you can actually find where scrub jays are and go to those places.
Good information there. Let's get another call in here from, we've got Mary calling in from Palm Harbor. Mary, you're on the air. Mary, you with us?
I called. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go for it.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Yeah, so I was listening to the show, and the telephone number to vote for your bird, I would think I would like it to be the scrub jay. I really do hope that they change it.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm calling about. Several years ago, there was a Florida congressman, I don't know who it was, and he wrote an op-ed in the newspaper about how he thought that the scrub jay should be the state bird. And I'd never heard of the scrub jay, so I thought that was pretty interesting. So
yeah, maybe a little ahead of his time. Yeah. Hey, thank you.
Yeah, and I think you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for your thanks you so much for your call. I think we have another call coming in. Graham in Clearwater. Graham, you're on the air.
Hi, yes, the scrub jay, hands down. It's the Florida native. What else is there to say?
Graham, loud and clear. Thank you so much. All right, sounds like we're getting a lot of kind of scrub jay fans out there.
I'm excited.
I wanted to come back to the sandhill crane, though. That's kind of a unique choice for a state bird. What are your thoughts on that?
So that's really a good bird to bring up. Some people have also mentioned the brown pelican, but which is, the bird recognized for St. Petersburg. But the southeastern sandhill crane is a unique race of the sandhill cranes in general. And so we have this group of sandhill cranes that only nest in Florida or the South, and they are slightly smaller than the other sandhill cranes that nest further north, and out west and up into Canada. So we get these birds from the rest of North America in the winter to spend the winter with us, but when it's time for them to have their babies, they leave.
Right.
So our birds have become specialized to living in Florida. And those are the ones I think that our caller was interested in. They are magnificent.
Quite stubborn too, as he was pointing out. They really don't want to move when they're on the road. Real quick before we let you go, I wanted to just come back to that other point one of our callers made. When is the next bird count?
So bird counts will continue through the year. The Christmas bird count is just finishing up, and but if you go to the National Audubon Society website, you can look up when the next bird counts. There'll be the Migratory Bird Day and other counts during the year where people can participate. And
we're going to have to wrap it up, but it sounds like there's lots of great information on that website. And thank you so much for speaking with us. Ann Paul is the president of the Tampa Audubon Society. Really appreciate your insights.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
We're coming up next on Florida Matters Live and Local. There is snow pretty close to us, about 30 minutes north of Tampa. Hear about it next.
I'm Scott Tong. K-pop Demon Hunters was the surprise smash hit of 2025. Surely, its success has something to do with catchy songs you cannot get out of your head. We talk to the man behind the music next time here and now.
Coming up at 1 after Florida Matters Live and Local.
Travel 100 years back in time to see through the lens of one of the most iconic photographers of the American West. Edward S. Curtis, photographer of his time, now showing at the James Museum in downtown St. Pete. More info at thejamesmuseum.org.
Want to be in the know, but you don't have a ton of time, especially in the morning? Well, the Bay Blend podcast from WUSF gives you the latest news and events in the Tampa Bay area in just a few minutes. It's fun, it's quick, and it's all about your community. Check out the Bay Blend weekday mornings wherever you get your podcasts at.
I'm Emma Brisk, a WUSF Zimmerman Radio News intern. Working alongside this incredible team of passionate journalists has been an inspiring experience. No intern expects to interview the Tampa mayor on their very first day in the field, but I did, and that's exactly what makes this opportunity so unique. I'm deeply grateful for my time in the WUSF newsroom, which solidified my love for broadcasting.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. What's the coolest thing about winter? Well, Floridians get a lot of wind, we know all about that, but typically in wintertime we get moderate temperatures and no snow. But for the past 5 years, Snowcat Ridge has been creating an outdoor faux winter wonderland with plenty of snow for visitors, even when it's 75 degrees outside. That's a little bit of what you might hear if you pay a visit to Snowcat Ridge. So if you've been, we'd like to hear from you. What's it like to experience snow when you need to run the AC in your car? Give us a call, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Today we're joined by Snowcat Ridge General Manager Tad Kledzik. Tad, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so for those who haven't heard of it, what exactly is Snowcat Ridge?
Snowcat Ridge is our alpine snow park located here in west central Florida in the Dade City area. So think of 75 State Road 52 area.
Now, when you were trying to find a location for this, because you've got all kinds of sort of wintertime activities here, but I think key amongst it is probably the sort of downhill sledding or tobogganing, but were you was it tough to find a place which had a big enough hill for you to site this experience?
So actually, the property that Snowcat Ridge exists on today was a big cow pasture. And so everything that is Snowcat Ridge was created back from 2019, 2020. So that 60-foot high hill, 400 feet long that we snow tube down was actually created from the water retention that we had to develop for the areas as well. So we just relocated some of that earth to create that hill that we now enjoy daily.
Oh, wow. Okay. So tell us about the perhaps not so Florida experiences you might get for the price of admission.
So coming to Snowcat Ridge is, like you pointed out in your lead up, it's an outdoor winter park, an outdoor alpine snow park. And so when you come to the park, we have, during the holiday season, a lot of festive holiday music and the outdoor temps to kind of go along with it. And so entering the park itself, immediately on the left-hand side, you see Snowy Slopes, which is our tubing hill, as well as a large dome directly in front of you that is our Arctic Igloo. So located inside of the Arctic Igloo is tons upon tons of snow that we have kept there in the dome, as well as a bunny slope there for the little guys that don't meet the height or weight requirement, age requirement for Snowy Slopes. Off to the right leads to Crystal Ribbon, which is our outdoor ice skating, and it truly is ice skating, unlike other facilities around that use a form of plastic to ice skate on. We keep a humongous ice skating rink maintained for outdoor ice skating. And then towards the back left of the facility is our Eskimo outpost. And there are rental igloos that are available out there. So if you want a little bit more private experience to sit fireside and watch over the snowy slopes, you can do that with company.
Are these actual igloos, like you've crafted them out of blocks of ice, or are they something else?
No, here is the Florida side of it, right? Okay. So the Florida side of it is it's a geodesic dome, a white geodesic dome that has a clear front on it. And so we've got some seating and beverages inside for the guests, as well as a personal fire pit out front that they can sit and enjoy s'mores with.
Yeah. All right. So how did you come to be involved in this tab? Were you there from the get-go for Snowcat Ridge, or did you come along afterwards?
No, I joined the Snowcat Ridge team in 2021, shortly after or about September. With the company, and then cut my teeth at Snowcat Ridge as the assistant general manager there. That my first year, the second year of the park, and have continued to serve as general manager since then.
And do you have any kind of like background in like snow sports or wintertime activities in places where they get snow and they have kind of, ski slopes and the like?
No, myself personally, my only real snow experience was, and I won't even call it necessarily skiing, in North Carolina on a icy hill.
Okay.
My background is prior military, education, transportation.
Okay.
And I departed the public sector about the same time. And came to work with the Snowcat Ridge team at this facility and the other facilities that we have there in Dade City.
Gotcha. Okay. So, because I imagine for folks listening to this, they may be thinking, the idea of trying to create like this wintertime experience in Florida is a little bit nuts, right? Like, how do you even go about that?
It's having a vision, and our ownership certainly had the vision to create something crazy, something amazing, and something that was so amazing that you would want to come back again with friends. Ownership is out of Indiana. The owners are originally from Indiana, so they're certainly familiar with the snow aspect.
Sure, yeah.
And wanting to kind of bring that here and create something completely unique. And it was a very lofty task. The folks that were around in 2020 during the build, they have horror stories of rainstorms and mudslides and all sorts of craziness that occurred. I fortunately came on the year after and missed that. But it continues to be a technical challenge, right? Creating snow and ice here in Florida outdoors and maintaining that and producing an amazing experience for all of our guests.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking about Snowcat Ridge. It's in near Dade City, I should say. It's a kind of a winter outdoor experience. You can go snow tubing and do some other wintertime things. Talking with Tad Kledzik, he's the general manager of Snowcat Ridge. If you've got a question about it, give us a call, 813-755-6562. Maybe you've experienced the kind of unique experience of downhill snow tubing in Florida in wintertime. You can also send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org, and that number again, 813-755-6562. We did hear from a caller a little bit earlier, Tad, who'd said she'd been to Snowcat Ridge. What's the kind of popularity of the place? Like, you've been open since 2020. What's the sort of general buzz from folks who are visiting? Are they repeat customers? Are they people who are just interested in checking out a little bit of snow in the sunny climes of Florida?
We certainly have a number of folks that are returning folks, and again, through social media and things of that nature, we bring in a lot of folks from all over Florida. I was surprised to meet folks from Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, and I said, well, what brings you down this way, and how did you find us? And they said, well, you brought us down this way. This is our trip. This is what we're doing, and we brought the whole family. So from a reach perspective, we are certainly attracting folks from all over the state, as well as locals here in the Hillsborough and Pasco, Hernando areas that are returning. Our objective was to create an experience where folks wanted to come back in again with friends and create this holiday routine, a holiday tradition for families to come out and enjoy the park, do something completely adventurous like snow tubing or ice skating that is not a natural activity necessarily here in Florida, and create some of those core memories for families. And it's been my honor to do so.
So from a technical standpoint, how do you make that snow, and how do you stop it from melting in a place like Florida?
We like to say it's a little bit of water and a whole lot of magic.
A lot of power too, I imagine. How big is your power bill?
It is considerable. We are very good friends with the folks at Withlacoochee River. I can pretty much pick up a phone and have somebody.
That's your local power company.
That's our local power company out visiting with us right quick. So yes, no, it's a collection of equipment where we chill a glycol solution and pump it out through very fine or small capillary tubes to create a super chilled mat. And on top of that is water, and we build this ice layer, and we augment that with some additional snow from time to time to optimize conditions. It is a whole lot of chilling power to keep that hill operational, as well as the ice rink and creating that snow for the dome.
Yeah, and is the ice rink big enough for, say, a game of hockey, or is it strictly for folks doing a little bit of recreational ice skating?
No, and I think that's why. So if you have to claim a favorite area, my favorite area is Crystal Ribbon, because it is so unique. So we're everyone's kind of familiar with the traditional hockey squared oval hockey rink that everybody knows, right?
For sure.
And so this is everything but that. So it's named Crystal Ribbon because it is in fact a ribbon of ice that travels around a smaller center area. So the center area we kind of refer to as that get out there and get your feet underneath you. The little ones in training aids use that space to just kind of hover around like you would in a traditional ice skating rink. But what makes this unique is that we then have this ribbon that wraps around three sides of it. And so it's not like NASCAR where it's left turn, left turn, left turn. You're having to negotiate around this path of ice while skating. And so it's very entertaining, both for skaters and for our guests that are watching. And of course, we operate a Zamboni, much as any other ice skate would, or rink would, and maintain that ice daily.
Well, we're going to have to leave the conversation there, but thank you so much, Tad. We've been speaking with Tad Kledzik, the General Manager of Snowcat Ridge. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and we hope to see you out there at Snowcat Ridge.
Against the alligator Alcatraz. Tomorrow on Florida Matters Live and Local, what's it like to manage a business where more than 21 million people come through your doors each year? You'll meet the CEO of Tampa International Airport. Well, that's our show for today. Florida Matters Live and Local executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our producers are Amelie Horace and Quincy Walters. Our engineers are Jackson Harp and Gio Garvin. Jackson composes the music, and Malika Hollis handled the video today. I'm Matthew Petty. You can subscribe to Florida Matters wherever you get your podcasts and watch on WSF's YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you again this time tomorrow.
If you're old enough, you'll remember the video rental shop. They were everywhere. In France, a handful of them are still open, VHS tapes included, and they're offering more than just nostalgia.
It's like a library, and it's very exciting to come in and try to make a decision. And so much more curated than Netflix.
Hear that story next time on The World.
You can hear The World at 3 o'clock after Here and Now, which is next. You're listening to WUSF 89.7 Tampa, winner of the 2025 Edward R. Murrow National Award for Overall Excellence. This is your spot for local.
Van Wezel presents Tango After Dark, a theatrical tango experience straight from Argentina, celebrating composer Astor Piazzolla. This show's choreography blends precision, passion, and sensual dance. January 11th, tickets at vanwezel.org.